Hey everyone, happy Wednesday, and welcome to another episode of Industry Chats. I'm your host, Jasmine Saliga, the founder of Affixify. And I am, if you follow me at all, if you're on any of my LinkedIn, you already know that our guest today is one of my dear friends. But also such an honor because she's like a legend. So I don't know how God worked all that out for me, you know. But I'm so excited to have Lovell Casiero on again. She's a second time guest. I think one of our only, maybe my only second time guest ever. And I am just so thrilled. So Lovell, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, and I'm honored to be your repeat guest. So
Well, yeah,
I love you like I love my daughter. So
we were very blessed to have such a
you are a
good.
tribal daughter for me.
Yeah, I'm I'm so grateful. Thanks, Jason, for introducing us a
No,
few
we
years
always have to give
back.
Jason and Manis a shout out on that
And
one.
I
Yeah.
know you have blessed me so much. And people probably don't know, but I mean, we're like, we pray together, we text, we keep up. So this will be fun today because our last episode was about bringing faith into work. But then today we're going to talk more on the business strategy side. So I'm super excited to buckle down and learn. But before we go into it, I want you to just share because since you were on our episode last, you've like launched a podcast and done all these things. So tell us
It's
what's
been a
going
busy
on.
year so far.
Yeah, tell
Um,
us.
yeah, so I've had a long, wonderful career in hospitality and always on the commercial strategy side of the business and driving that revenue in hotels, and worked for companies like PM Hotel Group and HEI and Crescent Hotels and Resorts. So to say I had a wonderful career in hospitality is almost an understatement. Really had a lot of great mentors and people who allowed me my space to grow in that area. But I left all of that at the end of 2025, and I am living my dream. I really am. So, Jasmine, originally people were saying like, "Oh, so you retired? Congratulations!" I would be like, "No, I did not. Do not start that rumor. I did not retire." In fact, my granddaddy was a preacher for over 50 years, and one of his sermons he used to preach is "Retire is not in the Bible." The
Mm,
word retire is not in the Bible. We'll unpack that one day too, but I am, the founder of FLC Business Consulting, and started the company actually in 2015,
yeah.
and then kind of put it on hiatus while I was with PM Hotel Group for
Mm.
7 years. But I'm back in, and it has more services than ever before, because not only do I still do consulting in the hospitality space, and I'm delighted to be a consultant on Affixify. But I also, as you know, wrote a book a couple of years ago. I am pursuing keynote speaking and coaching. And yes, I just started a podcast. So today is the third episode of Unshakable.
Oh my God.
And it feels, it was a whole quarter of just even getting the studio together and getting everything together. But I have a great lineup of guests that are going to be coming on. And the theme of the podcast it's called Unshakable with Lovell Casiero. And what I hope that it will do is allow people to tell their stories of, going through the storm,
Mm.
trials, tribulations, but coming out on the other side with an amazing testimony.
Oh my God.
So stay tuned. I have some really great guests coming up that just have had unbelievable setbacks, and that became a comeback, and I'm just really excited about it. So
I love it. Well, and I love that because it's very different than a lot of the podcasts we hear today. So, I mean, I think that's a no-brainer for anybody to tune into and find encouragement. And I mean, I can't think of anybody better to host it. So you were just showing me your setup over there. So I cannot wait to see that grow.
yeah, I have this studio obviously, and then I have another place in the studio for in-person guests. So as you know, I live in a small beach community, and I'm hoping to be able to bring some of the local businesses in and do that for the local audience. So,
Wow.
But I would like to give a little shout out that if anyone has a story and wants to be on the podcast, all they need to do is just contact me on LinkedIn or through my website, or, just call me up.
I love that. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see the stories you get. Like, I'm even thinking of a couple people I should send your way. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, spoiler alert, I will tell you that I have one coming up next week, that this young lady was born with no use of her legs and very little use of her arms.
Oh my goodness.
And before she was 10, she had like 10 surgeries when she was a little girl. Anyway, she has an amazing story of
Okay.
what she's accomplished. So you got to tune in for her. She's awesome. She's
I will.
awesome. I'm so glad to know her. I've already figured out, like, I'm going to be so blessed to meet these people that are going to come into my life through this podcast. It's awesome.
I can't wait to listen. And I told you this on the pre-show, but I mean, you're just glowing. You're definitely walking in your passion right now. It's
good.
Fun. It's so fun to see.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, so today now I'm like, okay, now we need a third episode because I want to follow up on some of these things. But today,
I would come anytime.
I know you will. I know.
We have some work to do today, right?
Yeah, we're gonna get down to. And so you were actually also just at BITAC, so the sales and marketing event, right? Is that where you were? Okay, and you were speaking there. So how did that go?
Oh, so listen. First of all, BITAC is my favorite conference because it's so intimate. It's so small. There's some amazing suppliers there, as well as some executives that might be showing up on a podcast soon.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, look at that.
Yeah.
You've been a staple speaker for BITAC. So I'm really, I need to make it to one. Although sales and marketing may not be our niche as much, but I see it all over. I've been to many in my past, and I'm like,
I think they have so many. I think operations would be a really good one for Affixify. I really do, because that's where you'll get all the technical operators and all of that. So they do all kinds. I always say this about BITAC: if you make the relationship, the business will come, and they give you like 3 days of doing nothing but making relationships.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I love that.
Well, I remember you telling me that. So the first time we met, and then we will get to the topic, but we had, did we have lunch in Dallas?
Yes.
And you said that.
One of my favorite hotels, the Sheraton in Dallas.
Yes. And we had
amazing team over there. I love that team.
And and I met some of them that day, and then we had great salads. I just remember that. But you told me that, and you said, I always believe that. And I still remember that to this day. And it's a little counterintuitive for when you take like a sales training or course, and it's very kind of like aggressive. And I'm like hearing your voice in the background reminding us that it's actually about relationships.
Isn't that really what it is about, though? I mean, you take somebody like Nick Corrigan, one of our dear friends, right? I mean, he just loves connecting people.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people I know because he was like, you need to meet Carol, you need to meet Kelly, so, I mean, that's really what it is about in business, and a great segue into what we're going to talk about today. But, just making those relationships. I know when I was selling in a hotel sales office environment, if they had a relationship with me, they wouldn't even put their RFP through the brand. They would just call me and directly, and, Hilton would be like, okay, well, why did this not come through us? And, I'm like, because she's my client. I mean, she loves me.
That's the ideal salesperson, by the way. So, and that is a perfect lead in. We didn't plan that, but talking about B2B selling, which I find to be such an interesting topic in our industry, because we have hotels selling to businesses, right? But we also have vendors selling to hotels. So it's kind of this interesting ecosystem. We all can take something from this. And you have a ton of experience. I mean, your whole past is commercial strategy, selling, all of it, on top of ministry. So you have like such a dynamic past. But talk to me a little bit, because we named this structure before strategy, and we hear strategy a lot. I feel like that's a bit of an overdone term in business. But structure is not one we hear a ton. And so just like starting off, you talk about, and we talked a little in our pre-show notes, like you got to have a foundation way before you talk strategy. You have to have a foundation, and then you just like a house, right? We lay the foundation, we build everything else.
That's a great example. Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about that. Like tell me, and maybe even if you think of it, like where have you seen that work well, that sort of thing.
So I will say this. I've always said that I had one daughter and she had three. And I realized when she had three that there is and you have three boys. So, like that each one of them are very different.
Yeah.
And so coming from hospitality sales and selling multi-units, multi-hotels, a portfolio of hotels, no two hotels are the same. You can have a cookie cutter branded hotel, but the location is going to make it different. The people or the dynamics of the demand generators around it is going to make it different. So hotels are like children. There's no two that are alike. But I do think that there is a fundamental structure to a hotel sales office. And so your question of, where have you seen this work or not work? And that you can almost do like wash, rinse, repeat. And it's just having the right number of people. And we'll talk about how when you have the right number of people. You have the goal set. And what I have seen when I go into a hotel to do what I call a 360 review, which is, a total diagnostic of the sales department. When I've gone in to do that work for investors or asset management firms, I find typically that's where the problem begins, is the structure. So for example, you may have enough people, but you also have to have it deployed correctly. You can't I've walked in too many sales offices where you had one person that was carrying 50% of the goals.
Yeah.
And what happens, and God forbid something happens to this person and they just don't come back one day for whatever reason, health reasons, or they find a new job or whatever, that puts 50% of your revenues in jeopardy.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to make sure that it's spread out and that you have them deployed correctly. And everybody has I'll say this and then we'll kind of pause for a minute, but everybody has their idea of what the ideal deployment is. I personally have always just enjoyed it when you were deployed by segments, meaning, you have the government segment, the association, the corporate, you are deployed by segments, because when you are booking in a segment, then you can go through the verticals within that segment for prospecting. Right. But if you're like waiting for whatever's going to come in from San Diego, because you're the West Coast person, then you have to be all things to all people. You have to be working every single segment that's coming out of San Diego, right? So I think there is more opportunity for prospecting and things when you're deployed by a vertical or by a segment. So,
well, and I love that. So I was, on the vendor side, I was the head of sales for many years, and I'm thinking like we always focus so much on territory, but what you're saying is a little bit different. So let me put myself in the shoes of a salesperson. If I worked for Lovell, in this scenario, you would say you're in charge of all government business across the US, right? Is that how it works? Or no, San Diego plus government with like a very niche target? How does that work?
No, I mean, but I always, like I said, I always liked, we typically would track, you would have somebody assigned to your business transient, right? And that's all they did, is they worked on those business transient accounts, which are mostly corporate.
Right.
And so you have a corporate group, association group, Smurf, the potpourri of a little bit of everything. Government, depending on the market. I cut my teeth in DC. So, that market is huge in DC, as you can imagine. So you always wanted like your real seasoned person on those types of segments. But yeah, for me, it's like, if I'm calling on this government office and I own government as a segment, then, I'm making sure that I'm prospecting while I'm working
Yeah.
with the bird in hand, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say that's a different foundation than a lot of hospitality companies are deploying today? Or is that kind of the norm? I mean,
No, I mean, some large hotels, like large convention hotels, have a reason for doing a very different deployment. It's more based on like the size of the group.
right.
But then you also, you have still those segments within there, but it's sometimes based on the size of the group. But not to get too hung up on how you deploy. It's really about having the right people.
Right. Yeah.
And, so the foundation of having the right number of people deployed equally, sharing the wealth of the goals. And then, of course, the activity goals, which a lot of times when I would find myself sitting at a deep dive in a hotel because they were not performing well, that a lot of the issue would be the lack of execution on the activities. Like,
Wow.
it's still you still got to make sales calls.
Yeah.
I was with HSMAI in Raleigh the other day, and we were doing a roundtable discussion. So somebody hosted a directors roundtable,
Yeah.
and you had a different question in every one, and we had this whole question about whether it's a cold call anymore.
Oh,
And I think, I was in DC during 9/11,
oh, wow.
and in the cold call went away after that. Like, you were no longer just walking up to a building and walking through the hallways of a building.
No.
So, but cold calls for me have never been a good use of your time.
Yeah.
You really needed what we were saying now is it's a warm call,
Oh, I
because you
like
have so much technology to do your research before you ever have a conversation with that client about coming to your hotel or buying your technology, or you've already have so much ability to research people. Like, look at me, I'm an open book. They know everything about me everywhere.
You're like, I'm an easy sell. Actually, that's very true. I've never heard the shift from like cold to warm calling. I remember when I've done plenty of cold calling in my day, right? But and we hear a lot about like cold calling is dead, but what you're saying is a different technique almost. It's a different way to approach it because yeah, maybe like I don't answer telemarketers typically just because of time. But if someone's reaching out and they do their research and they're actually knowledgeable, I think that makes complete difference.
Yeah.
And you talk about the people, like, does anything come to mind of traits of somebody that you can think of that has just done a phenomenal job in your career?
Yes, absolutely. I have worked with some really amazing people, but what I usually find that the success of the hotel is because it's an amazing team,
Yeah, that's
and
good.
that you have a really strong leader. And I had a hotel at PM Hotel Group, and it's the Hilton at BWI. And
Oh,
if
yeah.
you are a competitor of the Hilton at BWI, you better be on your toes, because not only do they have an awesome team with, and longevity is always a good thing in a team, but
Yeah.
but it's a good mix. They have some fresh eyes, and they have people that have been there for a long time. And the
Mhm.
secret to the sauce for me, when you think of a team that's selling a hotel or selling, is that the general manager is involved.
Oh, yeah.
And when you have a GM that is actively involved in in the hotel sales process and the commercial strategy discipline, it makes all the difference in the world. It's magic.
Wow.
And we used to have a saying when I was at Crescent, and Michael George and I used to have this saying: as the GM rolls, so rolls the hotel.
Mm.
And so it's very, very important to have that leader that's also going to be involved in the sales effort and the revenue management effort and all of that at the hotel, and be hands-on with that. And a lot of GMs come from an accounting background or an operations background, and it scares them to get out, they're shy about getting into the sales, but that's when you'll really, your hotel will rock and roll, is if you're hands on and working in tandem with the people that are driving the revenue.
Well, and I'm thinking here, like if I'm a GM watching this, because this is some wisdom. I mean, I'm actually also what I'm thinking on the side is how many people I'm going to send this to that I think would find so much value in what you're saying. But if I'm a GM tuning into this, whether today or later, like, and I'm thinking, oh, that's it. What would be a step one, for GMs that do have a different background that maybe, because a lot of people, it's so interesting. I find for you or me, sales is pretty second nature. It's like my entire career. But some people, that's not. They don't want anything to do with that process. So if I'm a GM and I hear you and that clicks with me, what would be a good step one that you would tell your GMs?
Well, this is going to sound so elementary, but attend the revenue management call. Like, you wouldn't believe how many times GMs do not attend the revenue management call. And that's where you are setting strategy. You are looking at your opportunity days and months and weeks and your forecast. And, you've got to, first of all, know your numbers. And that's where the numbers come to life, is the revenue call. The second thing that I used to require of my general managers was that they owned some accounts. And usually it's not like they're not working a segment, but they maybe have the top 2-3 accounts that they own in tandem with the salesperson, and they're reaching out to customers. Like, show your face when a group is coming in and they're starting their first day, make a stop at that registration table, thank them for their business, ask them, give them your card, just be involved. And once you put your toe in the water, it's really not that scary.
It's not that hard. Yeah. I think like you said, once you kind of have it down, this sounds kind of like you could rinse and repeat. You could easily train this. You said something too, I want to touch on goals and measurable goals. And I think a lot of us, we want the outcome just in life. We just like want the outcome so bad, but how are we getting there? How are we being set up? So if you're going into a team, whether it's this amazing Hilton BWI or maybe someone that isn't as trained, how do you know what kind of metrics need to be set? Is it by segment? Is it by individual contributor and how long they've been there? I mean, how do you do that?
So I have to tell you this, the first time that I left a single property and went to work and was in charge of a portfolio of hotels, I literally went skipping out of that hotel thinking, I never have to do a budget and a marketing plan again. So, I mean, I was like, woo! And guess what? Just before I was leaving PM Hotel Group, one of the things I had to do was deliver about 70 budgets.
Yeah.
So, it's like, be careful what you ask for, people.
Yeah.
But I became responsible for delivering a budget. And I say that because that's where the goals start. What is your financial plan? What is your budget? How much revenue do you need? And again, going back to market segmentation, where does that revenue, how does that build up?
Yeah.
Anyone who ever worked for me on my corporate team, when I would ask, like, what I would be looking or reviewing a budget, and I would say, like, what is going on here? Like, what? Yeah. And they would always say, you're not going to want to hear this. And I'm like, what? And it would be like, it wasn't put in the right segment. Like, we had to back it out and move it and whatever. I was like, oh. So yeah, it would drive me nuts.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But you have these, you built it up, and whether you are a technology company, you're going to get money from the sales or from servicing or whatever that is. You have these different buckets of revenue, and then you have to figure out, go back to the people, how many people you need to sell that, and how that, who's responsible for making sure that those sales are met. So what I always did was I started with the budget.
Yeah.
And then once you have that budget and you understand what's on your books, what you've already got, what you need to book for that, and that's how you come up with your goals. And then if you're doing it by segments, you break it down into the segments and you assign that out based on, how you're deployed. But you also have to be building for the future too. So you can't, you're obviously they will remain nameless, but there was a situation where there was a GM that was involved in strategy, and they were believed that if you sold the budgeted rate, that's how you made your budget. It's like, that's not how that works. You don't, you have to fill the glass, and
Right.
it's going to be a little bit lower than your budget, and some of it's going to be higher than your budget, and then you're going to hit that ADR, right?
Yeah.
But there's a science to it, and numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
And so you just, you have to put it together like that. And you always have to be laying that crossover goal for the next year. Once all of those come together, it's pretty easy to come up with by segment or vertical, or however you're deploying, what each person should be responsible for.
Okay. So it kind of trickles down budget and then go from there.
It starts with your budget. And then of course you need to know what you have on the books, and you have to assume that you might have some wash or cancellations or attrition and so on and so forth. So, there's a lot of, and it's great when you have a hotel that's been in business forever, and you can go back to the history and all of that, until we had COVID, and then that all went, away. So,
yeah.
Yeah, the unknown. Now we're always in uncharted territory, so but one thing too that you have to be very mindful of, again, is that you haven't given too much to a person to be responsible for.
Yeah.
Because if you have there's an ROI, I think, we're going to talk about that, but there's an ROI on salespeople.
Yeah, there is.
You figure out how to calculate that, then you know whether you're giving them too high of a goal or you haven't given them enough goal.
And how do you, I think that is kind of our last thing. Then I have a different question, but how do you know you're really getting that ROI? Is it on the team? Are you looking for ROI on the team as a whole? Are you looking by contributor? Okay. And what in your experience did you do to look at that?
So I have always done this for years. I learned this through a senior vice president of sales and marketing that I worked for, is that she had a tool that she used, and I've kept that going in every above property position that I had. Each year during budget, because during the budget season, which seems like it goes on and on and on forever, but during the budget season, and you're putting your revenues together and everything, you're also looking to see if you need to hire more staff, if you need, and that's usually when you're going to that ownership group or the management group and saying, we need another salesperson, or we need more front desk agents, or whatever the case may be. And you're presenting that we need to increase our staff. So what I always had them do is take those goals that were assigned, put them in a spreadsheet. And my sweet spot would be that you want to have like a 10 to 15 to 1 ROI on a salesperson.
Okay.
So if their salary is, $50,000 plus benefits, the cost of benefits, then you want to have at least a 10 to 15 to 1 on that. It was always my kind of sweet spot.
Yeah.
Now, if it was less than 10, they probably didn't have enough responsibility with revenue responsibility. And if it was way more than 15, then you had to dive into that and make sure that you were not giving them more goal than they could support, right?
Yeah.
But there are exceptions to that too, because sometimes a BT sales manager, a business transient sales manager will have, 25 to 1, but they have like these accounts that are $1 million accounts, and you have to dive in and make sure that if that is the case, it's okay.
Right.
And then it's validated to do it that way. But that also rolls up into what the team goal is. But it also goes back to what I have been talking about throughout the session, Jasmine, is that it also tells you if you're deployed correctly. Because if one person's like at a 5 to 1 and another person's at a 25 to 1,
Yeah.
It's a little unbalanced,
I
right?
was just gonna say that, yeah, it's unbalanced. No, I mean, that's phenomenal. You need to like create some kind of guide for this. I mean, this is really phenomenal. You really should. Yeah. I mean, you've done so much. That's why I always love it's so funny because like our conversations could go like a totally spiritual route, or we could go like total, I mean, you're just
Well,
so
I have had hotels I had to pray for too. So
yeah, yeah. It all kind of intertwines at the end of the day.
yeah.
Tell me this, and this is just simply because of Fixify, in our stance of being a tech marketplace. Of course, we have consultants and things like that, but lots of people love to talk about like which and maybe I don't know, you can name out a vendor or just a category, which type of tech tools did you just live and die by? Because there's so much tech, there's so much out there. We hear it every day, but is there anything that comes to mind, whether it was prepping for budgets or empowering your team, that you're like, have this type of system, if you do nothing else?
Well, what I would say is that everybody has a business intelligence system
Yeah,
of some kind, right? And where the angst comes in is if it's not accurate and it doesn't work well. And so that is a problem
yeah,
if you because you do live and die by that BI system, right? You're dialing into that every morning, the first thing you do, and you're looking at your portfolio, you're looking at individual hotels. And if the data, what is that saying? Garbage in, garbage out.
yeah,
And a lot of times you're making decisions in the commercial strategy space. You're making decisions on strategy, and if the data is not correct, then your strategy is not going to be correct.
right.
So that's the first thing I would say. And then I think there are so many tools right now that are coming out with these bots that and we at PM we tested we beta tested one. But there, I would being at Vitac, like I saw some really
Yeah,
good AI systems that are
right.
sitting on the, I mean, everything from being a bot that can actually answer your calls
Yeah,
and get you to a point of making, an appointment with the client and
yeah,
putting out an RFP and things like that. I mean, there's just so much, and I'm almost sad, but not, that I'm not still in
right.
hospitality, because I just think it's the next best. It's a game changer for
Yeah,
everything that we do. It's a game changer.
yeah,
And right now, it's basically a language model, but eventually, it's going to get into like some really. I love it. I love it. A lot of people are afraid of it, but
yeah,
if I were given advice to someone who's looking at a tech stack right now, like really dive into how everybody's going to say they're using AI,
yeah.
but
Really
there's
dive in.
there's a couple out there that are really, really good. I won't
Yeah,
start naming names, but
yeah.
because they may not be on Affixify,
It
and if
might be
they're,
a come look at a
I'll
fix
tell
by.
them when you get on Affixify, then I will start calling out your name.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. We love you for that. No, I actually think that's really good advice. I appreciate hearing, anybody can say like you should use these tools, but because you've lived it, and I mean, not going into detail, but I know that you and I have had like at high tech, we were in a cab or Uber. I guess we don't take cabs anymore. I don't know. And we were in an Uber together talking about your BI system. So I do know how important that is in someone in that role because you were telling me all about it. Important enough for our night out at high tech to, have it come up. So that's really good to know. And
Well,
yeah,
I also really love the platform that Jamie Jobe created, and I,
yes.
you
Yeah.
know, eh, first of all, I must have hired Jamie, I don't know, hundreds of times to be the person that was helping me move a sales system from whatever the sales system was to Delphi because she was that Delphi
Yeah.
expert. And I had never met her until she's the founder of Amaze, and it's an excellent tool.
Yeah.
And she really did a good job with that. And it was actually a backup for us to our BI system to really dive deeper into the segments that we were selling.
That's phenomenal. I hear so much good about them. They've sounds like they've really created their own category. And yeah, I mean, once you have Jamie and then you get Nick Horgan, you can't go wrong with that group.
And she's just
So,
brilliant when it comes to the
yeah,
sales system and stuff. I
yeah,
mean, she's really one of those founders that knows no,
Yeah.
she has built her tool, and
Yeah.
she was amazing with it. So yeah.
She was on, I had a founder series in the fall, I think it was November, and we had, I think, 14 to 18 companies nominated through LinkedIn, and we chose 3, and she was one of the 3. And so I got to hear her founder story. So I very much admire
It's
her and
going
her
to be
team.
on Unshakable.
Oh, good. I love it. Well,
I'm not going to tell you why, but it has nothing to do with technology.
Okay, I can't wait to hear. Okay, well, we went way over, but it went so fast. I love talking to you. I can
Really?
talk to you
Oh
all
my
day.
God.
We want to go over. This is great. It's so good. You have so much knowledge. And I think obviously, if you hear all of this, you want to find Lovell and Affixify, please do. But even more than that, like you're doing so much, you're helping so many people. Like, where can people really follow along your journey? Obviously, the podcast, all of that.
Well, simply lovellcasiero.com
Okay.
is my website, and so you'll be able to follow everything through that website. I have some more stuff that's coming out. I'll be happy to share that in the future, but we're working on the next thing after the podcast now. So I'll look forward to rolling that out. But lovellcasiero.com is where everything lives and starts from. I'm building my followers on YouTube now, which is the channel that I'm really focused on, but also on Spotify and Apple. So wherever you
Okay.
get that. But I
Yeah.
still haven't forgotten my roots, Jasmine. So I'm still doing consulting as
Yes.
well. And so, I do love the hotels and making them better and being able to go in and find opportunity to drive revenue. That's been my part of my life for 30 plus years. So I'll
Yeah.
always love that.
I mean, clearly, yeah. And I think either one of those, it sounds like, people can reach out to you. And then also we can buy your book on your website. Is that right? So
Mhm.
Lead Like a Girl. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
Awesome.
it's out there.
Yay.
Um, yeah, and hopefully now with that I get everything else, I can get that second book done. So
Yes. So exciting. I can't wait to read it.
What's
Well,
next?
Lavelle, always such my joy to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us. For those tuning in, you can watch this again on our LinkedIn page or on our YouTube by the end of this week. And Lavelle, we can't wait to follow your journey and listen to the podcast and see what comes next for you.
Thank you, Jasmine. You and Stephanie are such a light, and I am so glad to know you and be in the prayer group with you. And it's just a blessing to get to work with people like yourself.
Oh, thank you. I feel the exact same way. So we adore you. And thank you to those who tuned in today. We will be back next week. We have a full lineup for May industry chats. So keep an eye out on our company page and our newsletter for more. And we'll see you guys next week.
Be well.